Morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the committee. My name is Gary Hess, and I'm 44 years old. I'm the executive director for the Veterans Alliance for Holistic Alternatives. I was in the Marine Corps for 11 years, both enlisted and as an officer. As an infantry officer, I led Marines through some of the heaviest levels of fighting in Iraq. In December of 2006, my service was cut short as they drove a full-size triaxle dump truck loaded with C4 into the house that we were occupying and detonated. In 2008, I transitioned home with traumatic brain injury, chronic pain in spine, shoulders, and ankles, insomnia, and post-traumatic stress disorder, to name a few. As I transitioned home into the VA healthcare system, I was overloaded with pharmaceuticals for almost a decade. By 2016, I was mentally broken. My wife was leaving me, my business was failing, my mental and physical health were degrading, and I could not figure it out, nor could I stop it. I was inadequate. I was an absolute failure. I truly believe that taking my own life, leaving behind a wife and young child, was logically the best answer. In 2017, exhausted and out of options, I gained access to lab-tested pharmaceutical-grade cannabis. It removed anger from the equation. It stimulated appetite. It allowed for healthy sleep. It facilitated digestion. It provided consistency in moods. It allowed for clarity and focus. It reduced the chronic pain. Within 3 months of integrating cannabis, I was off all the medications prescribed by the VA. Here's the sad truth, is that if I continued to rely on the VA and the Western model of medicine, I would not be standing here in front of you today. For the first time in my 10-year struggle, I found something that was safe, effective, and efficient for me. It was not a gateway drug. In fact, for me, and for so many others, including the Marines I brought into my own home, it was an exit drug from the addictive pharmaceuticals that were prescribed to us. The truth is that the medical efficacy of this plant cannot be denied. Yet here in South Carolina, veterans returning to their communities after service are being forced to become criminals, placing themselves, their families, and their children at risk to access this medicine. These men and women are not criminals. These are our neighbors, our co-workers, first responders, mothers and fathers, coaches and teachers, and productive citizens of South Carolina. These men and women absolutely deserve the medical freedom to pursue other options, like cannabis, as modern treatments continue to fail us. And to put this in perspective, in the last 20 years since the inception of conflict, we have lost just over 7,000 service members to combat operations. In that same period of time, we have lost over 120,000 veterans to suicide. This is a problem. Here in South Carolina, with the highest number of veterans per capita, a veteran takes their life every 3 days.
Sir, your time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Hess. We appreciate the time. Stand by 1 second.
Sure.
We have members that have questions for you. Mr. Gilliard.
Yes. First off, I want to thank you for your service to the country. My question is, and I asked the previous guest, have you traveled out of state for treatment?
I absolutely have.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
My only option.
Thank you. Mr. Ted. Who's that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your service. A couple questions here. You mentioned that you were taking a lot of pharmaceuticals that were prescribed by the VA. Can you tell me about how many different medications you were on?
Adderall, Ambien, Zoloft, Prozac, opioids, Wellbutrin, on and on and on. Different doctors, same pills, same results.
And what did those medications, what type of effect did they have on you?
Zombie. You're an absolute zombie. It's emotionally numbing. It's a lack of and decline in cognitive skills. The ability to integrate back into a functional society is non-existent. The ability to be intimate with my wife, to be present with my 1-year-old, 2-year-old son.
Okay.
These are not happening with the pharmaceuticals. I can sit here and tell you story after story, which I cannot do in 3 minutes, of the men and women who are coming home and have these same problems. You listen to my testimony. Any veteran, anyone who suffers from trauma, the mechanics are all the same. The physiological, the neurological responses are all the same. The pharmaceutical strategy to treat these mental health disorders is not working. It's a pharmaceutical dumping ground.
And when you tried, you mentioned that you did try medical marijuana and that had a different effect. I'd assume that that effect was totally different from the opioids and the pharmaceuticals prescribed by the doctors.
It absolutely was. It allowed me to be in the present. And if you look and if you understand the therapeutic process, the healing and changing that perspective, they elicit the social response and bring you into that present. They facilitate the conversation that brings those painful emotions in. In that present is where that perspective is changed, where we can sit our body and feel the emotions and the responses of our body and feel that that is safe, and we can trust that this is a natural response going forward. You cannot do that with the pharmaceuticals. Cannabis allows us to facilitate that. It allows us to see a future instead of being tied to our painful past. We can sit in the present, we can analyze those emotions, we can make different decisions, and it changes the outcomes.
Okay. Well, thank you again for your service, and thank you for your testimony here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Recognize Mr. Johnson.
Got one more for you, sir. No, it's fine. And thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Also, first off, I want to thank you for your service. Thank you for everything. One of the parts of your testimony that I have to disagree with is that you felt like you were a failure. And I must say that I don't feel that way. I feel like you're one of the strongest individuals to come walk in here because you were so brave to speak up and speak your truth and speak out about, what you've been going through. So thank you so much. There's so many people around, this country that are going through what you went through that are afraid to speak up or say something. So thank you for your leadership and coming up here just to speak on behalf of so many Americans that are going through what you've gone through. My older brother was in Desert Storm. He did so many tours. He came home and he went through some of the similar issues that you were going through. He told me, Jermaine, don't ever enlist in the military because, I have shell shock, I have cold sweats, I have all these different situations. But instead of the medication helping him out, what he did, he decided to cope with alcohol. And he got addicted to alcohol for so many years, and he's still feeling the effects of that to this day. He's in his 50s now, and he's still dealing with the effects of alcoholism. And that's one of the things that I don't want for you all to have to go through because it's my own family suffering through that right now. So again, I really just want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for being so brave. Thank you for what you've done for this country, and God bless you.
Thanks, sir.
One other question, Mr.
Yeah, we're gonna let you go after this, I promise. So, I want to echo my colleagues once again. Can't thank you enough for your service to our country and all the people who have served our country, gone overseas, fought for us. One of the things I was curious about, what form of medical cannabis did you find worked best for you? If you don't mind talking about that,
Sure. The oils, right? The full plant extracts with the oils. A tincture is an oil that you can put underneath your tongue, and within 15 to 20 minutes, you can feel the effects of it. So for someone who struggles with trauma and is forced into that stress response, we release the neurotransmitters of cortisol and adrenaline, and it becomes toxic to our bodies. So the properties of cannabis after that trigger reverses that effect, and it reduces that toxicity, which is incredibly important.
Excellent. Yeah, one of the things, just to make a comment here, that I've found fascinating as I've been studying this issue, in the 90s, it seems like the technology and the research on cannabinoids increased greatly. And so, I'm a big proponent. I'm a big supporter of the heartbeat bill in South Carolina and supporting life, protecting, life in its smallest forms, and also protecting people's medical freedom, their ability to get relief, And so that's one way I'm looking at this too, with the heartbeat bill, with the ultrasound, we didn't have that technology. And so once people can see that heartbeat, once they can hear and see that heartbeat, that made such a big change to the way we view this issue. And so understanding that, in the 90s, there was some studies done on cannabinoid, the receptors that we have as people in our bodies to cannabinoids. So thank you again for your service and your time today.
Yes, sir.
You have one more
Thank you.
question, sir.
There we go.
My question is
Johnson.
for you. If you can answer this question, and then I'll tell you why I'm asking it. I am also a veteran. I'm frustrated with the VA and the amount of medications they give. I'm frustrated on my own behalf, as well as some veterans that I know. I also don't mind telling you that I'm on the fence. I don't know where I stand with this just yet, so that may help you understand my question. And this will be for anyone that comes up. I want you to tell me if you've ever had any type marijuana outside of the medicinal marijuana. And the reason I ask is because it was mentioned that this could be a gateway drug. You spoke in your comments and said it is not. It has actually been the exit of. So can you tell me, if you don't mind, if you've ever had any other types of marijuana?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was not an option for me. And so the only option was the black market, which is incredibly difficult. Someone who is trained in the virtues of honor, courage, commitment, and integrity, I had to go buy from a dealer. That was an internal struggle. Yes, I have purchased cannabis from the black market, and I can tell you that the first time I tried it, it was a terrible experience. It was the wrong strain, right? We didn't have access to the chain of custody, to the certificate of analysis that shows us the chemical compounds, that there are no pesticides, that it is organic, and it followed that chain of custody from the plant to the shelf in my hands, and I can access everything that is in that plant through my phone or my computer. So I purchased and used cannabis on the black market for a long time because that's all I had. You don't know what it is until you try it, and sometimes when you do try it, it is not a great experience. But what I learned very quickly that is it is absolutely impossible to overdose. It has zero effect on a breathing modulation, which it will not kill you. There's zero overdoses ever recorded. As a matter of fact, if you go to the LD50, the lethal dose, 50%, right, there is zero for cannabis. Every other drug, every other pharmaceutical that is legal has a lethal dose. Cannabis does not. Yet, these men and women are going to their healthcare providers and they're prescribing the same medications that they're taking their lives with. This is not something that happened a long time ago. This is happening every single day. And so I stand here in front of you with a sense of urgency that I cannot convey in words because I'm losing. I've lost more men to suicide than I have in combat. And that's an absolute shame. To come back here and to feel like I need to be a criminal to access something that helps me get back to my family. That is an injustice. We deserve the medical freedom to access this plant under the guidance of a physician and a licensed pharmacist.
Thank you.
Apologize for the emotion,
Thank you,
ma'am.
and thank you for your service.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the next person.